Up until my mid-20s, I would have told you there's no such thing as ghosts. Most things that people say, I think, is their imagination or just wishful thinking. Now, I just don't know. When I was newly married, my spouse and I moved for his job. We needed to find a place to live pretty quick. We lucked into the perfect house. It was old, but still looks good. In its previous life, it had been someone's beach cottage, which I loved. And what's better than living in a resort town, close enough to walk to the beach? Plus, it wasn't in a resort area. It was on the back half of someone's property with one road in and out, and lots of trees and shade. Very quiet. No other people around. Because the house was originally a weekend cottage, it was one big room with a small addition to one side that contained a kitchen and bath, and another addition off the back that had a bedroom. The big room was awesome. All windows on 3 sides, with a nice breeze most of the time. A fireplace. Lots of open area. The only thing that kind of pinged my radar was the landlord. When we rented, he was overly insistent that we sign a year lease, and we couldn't break it for any reason. No matter what, we needed to pay out the lease, whether we lived in the house or not. I thought that was a little weird, the way he kept repeating that over and over because he wanted to make absolutely sure that we understood. But it didn't really register at the time, other than I was a bit worried that maybe there were troublemakers or noisy parties on the beach or something. He assured us that it was a very quiet neighborhood, but he repeated again that we couldn't break the lease. I worked a 9-to-5 job. My husband worked 12-hour on and off shifts, so there were lots of times when I would be home by myself. The first month or 2 were fine. I liked the house. I liked the neighborhood. I loved the beach. I'm mostly a homebody, so when my husband was at work, I would stay at home reading or watching a little TV or cooking. I'd always wanted to learn to knit, so I bought some yarn and started teaching myself. Then sometime around the 3rd month, I started to get very strong feelings that someone would be standing behind me while I was reading. You know, like looking over my shoulder. It only happened when I was alone in the house, and only when I was in the main room. Without thinking about it too much, I started sitting places where my back was to the wall, or reading in the bedroom. When I went to bed at night, I started closing the door between the bedroom and the rest of the house. I felt safe in the bedroom. Sometimes, when I fell asleep in front of the TV late at night, I'd wake up to catch someone standing in front of the fireplace, just out of the corner of my eye. I thought I needed to stop dreaming so much, but I started to stay in the bedroom after dark, with the door shut. Things started not being where I put them in the big room. I got kind of irritated with my husband for messing with my stuff. I wasted 5 to 10 minutes almost every day looking for my handbag or my car keys. Then one day, when I came home after work, I found my knitting yarn wrapped and tangled around all the furniture in the big room. I don't mean just a little bit. I mean the yarn was strung between couches and wrapped around the legs of the chairs. I told myself that my spouse was playing a trick on me, and I cleaned it up. Then I decided that I wouldn't mention it to him, just to see how long it took him to come clean. He never did. I moved my knitting to the bedroom. Then my sister came to visit for a long weekend. I gushed so much about our lovely beach house that she came to visit and see the beach. She came for a 4-day weekend. She slept on the pull-out sofa in the big room. After the first night, she told us that the sofa wasn't very comfortable, and she thought she was coming down with something, so she changed her travel arrangements and was leaving that afternoon. She seemed agitated, but she wouldn't talk about it. A few days after she went home, she called me. She started the conversation with, "I know you don't believe in ghosts, and maybe I'm just being stupid." My heart dropped. I thought I was the only one, and I was being so stoic and pretending I never saw or heard anything. She went on to tell me that after she went to sleep that night in the big room, noises woke her up in the middle of the night. She thought it was one of us, but no one was there. Then, while she was sitting in the bed looking around, the windows started opening and closing. It just went around the room. One window opened and closed, then the one next to that, then the next one, and the next one. Then she heard footsteps walking straight towards her, but no one was there. The footsteps walked right up to the bed where she was sitting, then over the bed, continued across the room, and out through the side door into the kitchen area. She said she ran out the front door and spent the rest of the night on the front porch. She came back inside when the sun came up, waited for us to wake up, and made excuses to go home. She didn't want to spend another night in that house. She said, "I know you won't believe me. That's okay. But I'm not ever sleeping in your house again." I told myself that my sister had always been a little nutty about stuff like that, so knowing that the house was old, she probably just had a very vivid dream. I kept telling myself that. A few weeks after that, just when I'd stopped jumping at every stray noise, I woke up one Sunday morning and went to cook a leisurely breakfast for me and my husband. And to this day, I still don't know how to explain this. I opened the kitchen cabinets to get the dishes out to start cooking. All the dishes were rearranged, not messy, not tumbled about. They were all very neat and orderly, but everything was on the wrong shelf. The shelf that normally held glasses now had plates stacked on them. The shelves that normally held bowls now had glasses on them. My first thought was that someone had been in the house during the night. I checked all the locks, still locked. We didn't know many people, and I couldn't think of anyone who would pull a trick like that. Besides, there was so much stuff moved that no one could do it quietly without disturbing people sleeping in practically the next room. So I did what any half-crazed, scared-to-shit person would do. I pretended it never happened. I pretended that I always kept the glasses on that shelf, and there was nothing strange about having all the plates on this shelf. I sure as hell wasn't moving anything back because I didn't want to see what would happen if I did. I cooked breakfast. I went on with my day, and later that afternoon I told my spouse that I wasn't really comfortable in this house anymore. Could we find somewhere else to live? Amazingly enough, my spouse never asked me why. He simply said that was probably a good idea, and let's find something quick. And we moved out. We called the landlord after we'd already packed and moved the furniture. He came over and picked up the keys. He never, not once, asked why we were moving. In fact, he never met our eyes, just kept looking at the ground. We agreed to keep paying rent until he could get some new tenants. Months later, I asked my husband if he ever felt anything strange in that house. He said, "Yeah, that wasn't a good house. Glad we moved." And we never talked about it again. Your support means a lot to me. Please drop a like and subscribe to Eerie Echoes for more horror stories. As always, thank you for watching.